From the slowest downloads to the smoothest streams of cyberspace, welcome to the Kidawa Show. And here's your host, Arthur Kidawa.
Welcome to the Kidawa Show, your late-night YouTube talk show. Today, I would like to introduce a gentleman of a channel that I found very fascinating and, quite frankly, I've gotten addicted to ever since I saw the first video. It's been just so refreshing finding a channel with a take on life such as this. So please welcome Awaken with JP Sears, Mr. JP Sears himself. Welcome everybody, welcome back to the Kidawa Show. Today, from 10 ways to ruin your life to countless ways on bettering your life, from becoming gluten intolerant to fighting against the torture of plants. Please welcome JP Sears to the stage tonight.
Thank you, Arthur, for having me on. I'm very happy to be here hanging with you.
How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, so far I'm doing well. I'm behaving myself, probably causing a bit of trouble, but I haven't got caught for any of it yet, so that's my definition of a good day.
Absolutely, absolutely. JP, when I first met you, when I first saw your videos, the first thing that hit me was sort of an Axl Rose, but then Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses, if you don't know, an Axl Rose, but like the appearance, but the inside completely of an opposite nature. Have you ever heard of that kind of comment?
You know, oddly enough, I'm not a big Guns N' Roses fan, but I know who Axl Rose is, and oddly enough, I have got the Axl Rose comparison a number of times, and I think my response to it is basically, thank you, I think.
Right. The other, I guess, celebrity I linked you with your satirical sort of comedy style was also Steve Carell. Do you know Steve Carell?
I do, from The Office and I guess a number of movies. Yeah, I think Steve Carell's great. And of course, I need to be arrogant and think he's great because you're comparing him to me. So what I'm really saying is, yeah, I think I'm great. Well, yeah, in all seriousness, I think Steve Carell's wonderful, and I'm very flattered by that comparison. He's certainly a wizard at what he does.
He is. He definitely is. I think he's even underrated compared to the other big comedians out there. All right. Well, back to the star at hand. You started your channel 2 years ago, roughly, and currently you have 71,729 subscribers. And in addition, over 6 million views. So huge congratulations on that.
Oh, well, thank you for that. You know your numbers probably better than I do. But yeah, I appreciate that. I've been, to be very honest with you, very humbled by the growth of my channel. The vast majority of the growth of my channel has come in the last probably 7 months or so. And it is very humbling to have that many eyeballs watching the content that I produce. And of course, the subscribers mean a lot to me. I've got my attachment. And for me, when someone subscribes to my channel, it's a token of them reaching out to connect, saying, I like what I get from you. And to me, it's a great compliment.
Definitely. Before we get too deep into the topics, the quality of your videos is excellent. So may I ask, what kind of camera do you use?
Yes, well...
Or camcorder?
The first most important part of the video equipment I use, specifically for the ultra-spiritual videos, is my girlfriend. She is a videographer, in my opinion, talented videographer and photographer. So I'm blessed that she works her magic, and the camera she uses, I believe, is a Canon Mark III. And for those of you who have dabbled in fancy equipment, what I discovered is because you have a great camera, it makes it easier to make your videos look terrible, i.e. like when I get on the camera and try and fiddle around with it. So, you know, her using a lovely piece of equipment in her lovely artistic way, I appreciate you pointing that out. I think that is a wonderful supportive aspect of the videos that makes them high quality, and what you get to notice is the good camera production so that you don't notice the monotonous, boring jokes that I'm saying.
Right, all that editing or, well, the magical work that goes behind the stage. About the sound, what are you using as your microphone? Are you using an attached mic? Because I never see you carrying a lavalier mic as we have here, but your sound quality is very good.
Yeah, it's an attached mic. Typically, it's under my shirt, probably right about here, and I'm completely blanking on the brand name and the specific piece of equipment. So please forgive me on that. But it does, in my opinion, produce a pretty decent, high quality sound.
What does JP? In your name, JP, what does that stand for?
Well, just perfect is one version I like to pretend it means. There's an X-rated version that I won't go there today. Everybody can use your imagination on what that might mean. And from a more kind of inherent names my family gives me perspective, Jonathan Patrick is what JP stands for.
Okay. All right. Would Patrick be your middle name?
Yeah, it's my middle name, and as you might deduce from my appearance, with my luscious red hair, I've got Irish in my background from my mom's side, so I think the Patrick is a tribute to that, and Jonathan, I don't know what that name comes from. Maybe it's Irish or Japanese for all I know.
Right. I've got a John in my middle name too. A John in my middle name, whatever that means. But yeah, it's great because actually a lot of my guests since I started the show are Irish. I don't know what's going on with Irish. Is it that Irish luck? But I'm having it, and it's excellent. The only problem I have with it is I can't express it with the color green for some strange, odd reason here. So.
Yeah, I think us Irish people are looking to take over the world. We've been distracted for hundreds of years hunting for pots of gold. And I've only actually recently discovered that there is no gold at the end of rainbows. Believe it or not. I think it's just been a metaphor the whole time. So now that my people have discovered that, we're going to be able to be a little bit more productive in life, and you're going to see us. It'll be kind of like a combination of the zombie apocalypse meets St. Patrick's Day.
So, okay. All right, I'm trying to picture that. That could be very fascinating. Maybe like crazy leprechauns, something like that. All right, okay.
Out for blood.
Yeah. I also wanted to state that one of my favorite late-night talk show hosts was Conan O'Brien, who is also Irish. So
yes, I'm with you there. I think he's wonderful.
Yeah, excellent sense of humor and just a brilliant guy, actually. The thing that struck me with your channel first was it was simply refreshing to see a spiritual/psychological self-help counseling channel where you took spirituality into that satirical comedy form that you have. Because you see so many psychological and spiritual channels and they take them so seriously, even though they act like they don't take them seriously, they do. And you've brought that out and you've shown that side we should see and kind of laugh about.
Yeah, and I appreciate you seeing that. To me, that's been very important, and does it better other people's lives? I think so, based on the feedback I get. But honestly, I'm going to play the selfish card here. That's all therapy for me. For me, it's incredibly helpful to myself to learn how not to take myself seriously. I want to honor myself and have my beliefs, but if I can do myself the justice of not becoming a slave to my beliefs, not becoming cemented in a kind of dogmatism about my beliefs.
Exactly.
Even my beliefs that are, anti-dogmatic, I can become dogmatic about those.
Absolutely.
So, not taking ourselves too seriously, calling ourselves out on our attachment, calling ourselves out on how we're using healthy practices in unhealthy ways, in how we use sort of a sophisticated spiritual vocabulary to cover up our crap.
That's right. Yep. Or our laziness, as I've seen a lot.
Absolutely.
So, I've replaced you, sort of, as one of my favorite channels of that sort to watch now. Another one I'd like to mention to see if you've seen is Ralph. I don't know if you know Ralph. He has a psychological/spiritual channel as well. Diving deep into infinite waters. That rings a bell?
Absolutely. I have been into Ralph Smart. He's one I'm subscribed to, and I'm always on some kind of regular basis checking out what he's doing.
Cool.
I think he's got a great perspective, and I mean, talk about a gentle human being. And
Definitely.
I think one of Ralph's gifts is how he unravels, I'll call it the dilemmas that we're all faced with present day. And I think that's one of the great gifts I get watching his videos is new perspective on dilemmas, how to see challenges as not so much challenges anymore.
Right. Another reason why I brought him up is it would just be an excellent thing to see you guys collaborate together,
Yeah, well, I'd be all for that. Last time I was in London, I sent Ralph a message. Didn't hear back from him. I don't know I'm sure he gets a lot of messages, and my channel was pretty small at that point. So maybe I'll, through the grace of the leprechaun people, sometime in the future, it would be awesome to collaborate with Ralph.
Absolutely. You've hit quite a bit of success with your ultra spiritual playlist. I want to ask you, do you find that there are a lot of viewers that express confusion on whether you are being serious or joking in your large variety of videos?
Yeah. There's a lot of those folks expressing confusion. JP, are you serious? Are you a serious person, or are you humorous? And my answer is confusing too. I say I'm both. And honestly, within the same video, I can be both. And some videos are certainly more straightforward, sincere, serious. I don't like the word serious, but and then other videos like the ultra spiritual series, as you mentioned, that's the face of it, at least, is comedy. I think there are serious messages embedded through and delivered through the satire of those videos. And to be honest with you, it's been a step of growth for me to allow me to just be me, period. And that means in any given conversation, like yesterday, I was recording a serious video on should I be in an open relationship? And it is a very serious topic, and I had very serious insights, like how I'm using the word serious. I seriously don't like to use the word serious. I'm being serious right now.
It's so ultra.
And I would find during that video, I was making little jokes on the side here and there that just come up spontaneously. And I think it probably does confuse people. And from my perspective, confusion is a sensation we get when we're leaving the comfort zone of familiarity and certainty. Yep. So when a person, they're always serious, okay, I know what to expect from them. They are the serious one. Or, oh, this person over here, they're a comedian. They're always joking. I know what to expect from them. But when we're not really predictable, because we allow ourselves to be flooded with different colors rather than just the color of serious or just the color of comedy, we might be hard to put in a box, and I would say that's wonderful. A box is a pretty crappy place to live in. And I would also suggest, based on my experience, we all have these multicolors that want to live through us. Not everybody's colors are your two primary colors, serious and humorous. Those happen to be mine. But I think a lot of times, so that we can have a more certain sense of self, as delusional as that is, that's not a true connection to who we really are, but we want a sense of self so that we can be more certain about that and feel more in control about who we are. We like to blink out the colors that want to live through us. I personally think that it's very challenging yet insecure to allow the more full spectrum of the colors of life that want to live through us to come in. Yet I also think it's more rewarding. So on this little rant, you got me all excited, Arthur, with the confusion that comes up with being able to be both sincere and intimate, as well as funny, for those who think I'm funny.
I think that confusion comes up as a sort of success to your to that humorous character that you have created as well, because that just means that you play it very well, if that made any sense.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate hearing that. And I think that ultra spiritual character, I think in a way he's a very real part of me, yet for the video and the programs I do with it, I think I just exaggerate it, add a little more color and flair. But yeah, I hate to raise my hand and say, I think I'm actually that dysfunctional that he's a real part of me.
How do you feel about seeing your channel grow so fast? I mean, one thing I want to point out is in the last 2 months, you've grown, over 30 or 40,000 subscribers. So that's pretty crazy. How do you feel about all that? How are you accepting it?
I feel two primary things about it: humbled and gratified. My ego, I'd be lying if I sat here and said, I don't care, My ego isn't, it's gratified by it in a very arrogant sense. And I do my best to kind of realize that happens so that I don't try and pretend it's not happening while it just happens more. So I kind of give myself permission to celebrate that and say, hey, that's pretty cool. Look at that growth. I'm pumped about that. And then the other very real feeling is just the humbleness in my heart. It's just so flattering, so humbling to see, tens of thousands more people here in the last few months jump onto my channel, not only view videos, but also then subscribe. So it feels really wonderful. And I would also say it feels very out of control for me. It feels kind of like I'm, in a way, I'm going to sound ultra spiritual here. It feels as though I've kind of surrendered control of, the YouTube stuff and my other work. I've kind of surrendered the control and just letting the river of life take it where it's supposed to go. I'm not trying to put brakes on. I'm not trying to force the flow, make it happen. And I would say that, and it's much more of an internal feeling, that sense of surrendering control and letting the river just flow, that itself is both scary and exhilarating at the same time.
Definitely. Most definitely. It's what do you think sparked that jump in growth?
Well, there's two primary videos. The first ultra spiritual video, which was how to be ultra spiritual, that was a wonderful ignition of growth. And then I think it was the 12th episode, which would have come out about 2 months ago, the how to become gluten intolerant ultra spiritual episode. That one really took off, and that's, I think when that video came out, my subscribership was 20 or 21,000, which was great growth. And then from there, it tripled in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about that, here's my gratified ego talking, is seeing how the other videos...
place to do it.
I love seeing how the other videos, both the comedy videos and the serious videos, they get a lot more attention, and then those videos get shared. So, kind of the Big Bang videos, the ones that every once in a while they go viral to some extent. I love seeing how their hook videos, they bring people into the channel to other videos. Do they bring everybody in? Absolutely not. Yet they bring the people in who I think are supposed to be there. So I love kind of that dual function of the kind of the bigger hit videos. I love the videos for the sake of themselves, but also how they function to shine the spotlight on what else I've got going on my channel.
Right. It allows you, especially at higher numbers like that, to kind of have a better understanding of what your audience is and who they are and what's, attracting them. Well, of course, what's attracting the people, but what are those specific ones that have subscribed looking for, like you said. So, yeah.
And there's a lot of messages I get that have a common theme of saying, Dear JP, I found you after the How to Become a Gluten Intolerant video. I looked at your other videos and I was thrilled and surprised at your in-depth, intimate take on whatever, healthy sexuality or how to heal depression. And to me, that's really wonderful to see, actually. And I think that's the backbone of what's important to my heart, to help people.
That's right.
And I think to help people help themselves, to be honest. Entertaining people, that's great. But that's not the heart and soul of what I do and why I do what I do.
No, I hear you. That's what it's all about. Even, my soul, I wouldn't say sole purpose, but definitely the thing I would honor the most about what I do, what I'm doing with you here, is trying to help out people. And, I always think and say to other people, I look forward because I know it's going to happen, but I look forward to once I hit, 1 million subscribers or 2 million, and I can give a shout out and give an interview to someone that's got, like 100, just because, I see they put in the effort and I want to help them out, just changing their life in that way. And hopefully in other ways with the show, especially with guests like you and the topics we talk about. And education and bettering people's lives.
It is, and I think that's kind of like the Oprah archetype you're mentioning. And I think Oprah's, she's powerful enough, she's created her own archetype where there she is, she has probably more eyes on her than anybody else in the world. And she can take someone who's got a beautiful message. Eckhart Tolle, for example, nobody really knew about him until he went on Oprah, and she, gifts him with the exposure, which gifts everybody in the world with the knowing of, there's Eckhart Tolle. Sounds like he's got some interesting stuff. Dive into his work, and my life has changed now that I got into the power of now. So I think it's cool hearing you talk about what I would call the Oprah archetype.
Yeah, fascinating how you put that. How it's not just that single person that's getting the exposure, but the return of that on the whole population.
For sure.
What, can I ask you, is your profession?
It's a good question. I'm a professional redhead. That doesn't pay anything, actually. So maybe I'm still amateur status at that. And my next profession... I'm an inner coach, and what that means is I do emotional healing work with people one-on-one. Most of my client practice is done via Skype. I'm privileged to work with people all over the world. So that's what I'm doing in the bulk of my days. And I also run retreats and workshops around the world on different emotional healing and self-growth topics.
Okay. Do you have a general degree in psychology, or do you have some more specific certification for this?
Yeah, I'm incredibly unconventionally trained. I don't practice psychology. The emotional healing work I do, from my perspective, it's more intuitive, vulnerable, emotional based than psychology as it's taught, well, in most circles.
Right.
So I definitely operate under the coaching umbrella rather than therapy or counseling. In my training, the majority of my training for what I do, done through an organization called Journeys of Wisdom, which is in Columbus, Ohio, in the U.S. In fact, you can check out journeysofwisdom.com. The man who runs that, and I've done it's hundreds, if not thousands of hours of classes with him at this point. His name's John McMullen. He is just absolutely an angel inside of a human body, and I can not even come close to expressing the gratitude and value for what I've learned from him. And then I'd also, talking about my education, like to be real and pay tribute to the thousands of clients that I've worked with, as they are significant teachers for me.
Definitely.
To be able to function as an inner coach doing what I do, my clients are the ones that provide me with a significant education. It's kind of like we teach what we need to learn the most, and not that I'm quote unquote teaching clients, but working with them has been a priceless part of education.
Most definitely. Yep. What issues do you see most people that confront you in search of help?
Yeah, a variety of issues, but I'd say the most common ones, self-sabotage has to be up there. I'm always, sabotaging my happiness. I'm just like addicted to unhappiness, or I'm always sabotaging money or relationships, or even, body shape for that matter. That being one. Another is people just coming in flat out pain. Hey, I'm incredibly depressed, or I'm filled with pain, sadness, fear, shame, and then we dive right into it. And I think maybe the third pillar, if we can call it that, of commonality that people see me for is for relationships. How to become, not only how to resolve challenges and blockages in their intimate relationships, but also for them to become more functional in their relationships, have their relationships actually become a source of growth and finding themselves, rather than relationships, as many inevitably become, a source of losing ourselves and a kind of a force of diminishment in our life. So self-sabotage, emotional pain, and relationships, I think, are the three most significant pillars people see me to work with me on.
Now back to the ultra-spiritual talk. I would like to ask you, what motivated the idea behind, starting those videos, since it's such a unique perspective on YouTube?
Part of it was me just being the blind man walking. I had done, I'd say probably my first, comedic satire video was one called How to Ruin Your Life, or 10 Tips to Ruin Your Life.
Right.
And then a couple months later, I'm like, oh, okay, this new idea, how to be ultra spiritual, which kind of highlights how people use spiritual bypassing, then blind themselves to it and think they're getting spiritual when they're actually making themselves less spiritual through their spiritual practice. I'm like, that'd be a cool video. So I did that, and I had zero plans to do any kind of follow-up videos in that series. But that video took off, and then it was probably a couple weeks after that video, I just woke up one morning and said, I mean, it just feels like there's so much material, creativity. There's so many things that are topical under that umbrella that ultra spirituality has the reach on.
Definitely.
I said, let me try another video. And then from there, it's just kind of, the audience, if you will, has been teaching me to do more. It's kind of like, okay, they responded, so that teaches me more is a good thing. So who knows how long it'll last, as long as there's good, juicy creativity that I'm inspired by flowing through in that realm, then I'll keep going with it.
Okay. All right. So it wasn't a specific person or maybe an experience in your life that kind of started that off, right?
No, nothing specific. I mean, I've certainly had a lot of people in my life, me being one of them, who it's kind of like, oh, there's a, kind of a prototypical example of an ultra spiritual person. So I think I take little, for any ultra spiritual episode, I take little bits of people who have been in my life or are in my life, and I'm fair game on that as well. So it's kind of like the material for that, it just comes from my life experience.
It's interesting how we're talking now. It's an art form, what we do on YouTube. Earlier we were talking about that, and that's very fascinating because that's what you're expressing it as. Is you're expressing, a bit of an experience here and there, and it's such a unique art form that you've created. Even with that, and I don't know where I'm going with that, but oftentimes with my students, I say when art comes up as a topic, everybody's kind of objecting to it and unhappy, and I tell them that art is everywhere. Just deciding what you're going to wear to school today, I mean, that was artistic, that started in mind, so don't forget what art really means. It should, implement the opposite kind of reaction that they have given it. So
I love that. Your insight about art is everywhere. The question is, do we have the awareness to see it?
Exactly.
And especially the art inside of ourselves. I think that's very inspirational, what you said. And I remember when I was a kid, I hated art. We'd go on a school field trip to an art museum, and I was beyond bored. I don't even know if there's a word in the English language to convey how bored I was and how I hated it. And I'd get defiant. The teachers are saying, this is great art. I'm saying, well, screw you. You're not going to tell me what great art is. I think this is stupid. It looks like a drunk 5-year-old painted that $1 million painting.
Right.
And growing along in life, encountering some of the wisdom that you expressed, kind of find, art is everywhere. And I think we are the primary author. It's kind of Freudian slip with your name there, Arthur.
There you go.
I think we're the primary author of what our art is. I'm not a painter. I'm not a musician. For me, my primary art form is through the art of communication, and some of that is done via videos. And I think one of your art forms is certainly your art of communication, on how you do your videos and the messages that you invite to be expressed. In my opinion, Arthur, you create a very unique canvas for your art to be expressed.
You used canvas in that sentence. That was excellent.
I'm just reading off the script.
What a humble man. Damn it, wasn't supposed to mention that. Not yet. The outtakes. The setup outtakes, I mean, because even those aren't real. Right. Now, at the end of your videos, I always see this, Third Wing Productions.
Yes.
What's that all about?
That is the hand of my lovely girlfriend. So that's her videography company, Third Wing Productions.
Okay.
And she films my videos, and that's, if she charged me what she should charge me, my video production costs would be through the roof. So, it's certainly just giving credit where credit's due.
Excellent.
To my lovely girlfriend, Deanna.
There you go, Deanna.
Yes, she deserves a round of applause in putting Third Wing Productions.
We'll get all the fake applause and laughter that goes into this show.
Oh, good. So you can dub in laughter after all my jokes that aren't funny?
Yep. And maybe my confusion will set in laughter at points that you're serious. So hopefully it's going to work for somebody. That's what we hope for here.
I'm already confused.
See? And the laughter goes up again. There you go. That's how it works. The things we can do on YouTube. All right. So, excellent. Okay, Third Wing Productions. There you go. Your most viewed video, How to Become Gluten Intolerant, Funny, Ultra Spiritual Life, Episode 12 with JP Sears. That video has, now let me say all the numbers just to make it, just to give it the what it deserves, okay, the energy it deserves. 3,394,748. If you're just starting to learn English, say that number because it is explosive. That's a lot of views. So, wow. Like you were talking earlier about your growth, I mean, that's one of the videos that I'm sure helped a lot. Tell me about it. Why do you think that video?
Gluten intolerant means you're entitled.
Yeah, that video has certainly been a blessing for growth.
Because they're not gluten free.
That video going as big as it did, surprised me. I welcomed it. I think videos going, that's a lot of views for my videos.
No, I said bloody diarrhea.
I don't think you can really plan on that. So it was a lovely surprise, and kind of my opinion on why it went so big. Mm-hmm. Probably a couple ingredients. One, being gluten-free and gluten intolerant. It's very topical in kind of the New Age circles, health circles, nutrition circles. It's very topical today, and it has been for a while, and I think it's picking up a lot of steam where it's become a trend. And I think anything trendy has the potential to be a big video if other ingredients are there. And then I think the other part of that is I think people love to have pointed out for them what everybody is thinking, but what nobody is saying.
I agree. Yep.
And I think that video did that, and it being pointed out in a satirical way, I think created a sharp edge of attraction.
Right.
So, I would guess those are some factors for why that video had some pretty good growth to it.
Sure. I mean, that's the beauty of what you do with those videos is you can say what you implement in that video in a very negative way and create a huge storm, or you can do it in that sort of satirical way, I guess, and get a much better response from it. Right on with your artwork.
Thank you. 4
questions to be exact here on your thoughts on something. So the first of the thoughts on question is the thoughts on. Now it's a new section on the show. All right. Thoughts on vegetarianism. What are your personal thoughts on that?
I think it's a good thing for some people to do for a certain length of time. I'm not dogmatically for it or against it. Confusing answer. I've seen a lot of people become vegetarian or vegan, and it seems to really improve their health for a while. And then it can start to work against them. I've got some friends, actually, they have a YouTube channel, the Raw Bras. They started off as raw vegans, hence the name Raw Bras, and they're 3 brothers. That's where the bras come from. And they did amazing for several months on the diet. And then they actually started doing hormonal testing and documenting their testosterone was lowering. And they were losing their fitness. And these were people they wanted to be vegan. They wanted to, this is an awesome lifestyle. They branded themselves off of it. And they're just open-minded. They kind of discovered and then medically documented, this is not working for us. And that is by no means an indictment that everybody else will have the same results. There's other people I've seen that have been vegetarian, long term, and it seems to really work for them. So I personally believe we are all unique we're all individuals with our nutrient requirements. And I also believe that we're all individual within our individualness. So in other words, I think with all the life factors that happen, I think a nutrition plan or philosophy that works for us today, that might be the exact thing that works against us next month or next year. So am I for vegetarianism when it works for you? Am I against vegetarianism? I'm against it when it's working against you.
Sure. No, that makes sense, and that's a good answer. Definitely. Now, a little backup question here, real quick. I saw that you have collaborated with Rob Ross, I think a few times even. How did that go about? How did you go about meeting each other and such?
Yeah, when I was living in San Diego, California, I lived there for 10 years, and just last year I've moved away here to the East Coast of the U.S. Daniel, or better known as Danimal Rabra, he sent me a message saying, "Hey, JP, I'm in Carlsbad, which is where I live. Do you want to meet up?" And we just knew each other through Facebook, didn't actually know each other. Facebook, how intimate is that? So, we met up for coffee. I met he and his wife, and we just instant friendship. So, I did a video with them on their channel that day. Awesome. I didn't have a YouTube channel at that point, 2.5 years ago, but actually my experience of them and specifically Daniel, that was my inspiration to start a YouTube channel. Oh, nice. And so not only has there been that inspiration in my video collaborations with them, but all three of those brothers, Daniel, Timothy, and Nathaniel, they're all very dear, close friends of mine to this day. We love to get together anytime we can get our paths intersecting.
Wonderful. Well, that's a beautiful shout out here by JP to the Robras. So, yeah, thank you for that. Share with me your thoughts on other spiritual type studies. We're talking about now Hermetic principles, we're talking about shamanism, witchcraft, things like that. How do you think about that? How do you feel? How do you practice, if you do, with that?
Yeah.
Around that.
I don't have much of a practice with any of those categories. That's not because I see no value in them. It's simply because I haven't had practical experience with them. And I haven't had the spark of inspiration to dive into them.
Okay.
If and when I do, I'll go full blast and have my experiences. Yeah, but on the outside, all I can say is what little I've seen, I respect those practices and see value through my perspective when they're done with legitimacy and authenticity.
Right. That could even be another topic for ultra spiritual, the authenticity of these rituals and such.
I'm taking notes.
Well, you know what I just copied from you, and I even use this in my classes sometimes. I'll say something thought-provoking, and I'll go,
Exactly.
I just love that.
when nobody else sees it as deep and insightful, you just influence them.
Now they do. And suddenly they don't know what they're thinking about, but they're thinking.
At least you think they're thinking, and that's all that counts.
That's right. I can leave happy. Tell me, what are your thoughts about astral travel?
Astral travel, that's something that it intrigues me. I won't pretend to have a lot of experiences. I've had some experiences, primarily kind of at the time halfway between sleep and waking state. So for me, it's fascinating. And when I was younger, I don't know, early 20s, that sort of thing was more fascinating to me. I was attracted, like, hey, I want to learn to levitate too. You hear, you read
Right.
Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi, and he talks about how his gurus can levitate, and I'm like, yeah, I want to levitate. And, I don't think there's a lot of authenticity and integrity within young 20-year-old JP for his reasons. He wants to levitate so he can feel, significant about himself. So, my drive to kind of pursue the astral travel type of things, it's not really there right now. It's, excuse me. And I will qualify that by, there's so many paths up the mountain, so many beautiful practices, astral travel being one of them, that in a way I feel bad to say, I don't do it and I don't have the drive to do it, because that could be taken as an indictment of, like, I somehow think that's not a good thing or I don't value it. Not the case at all. For me, it's a matter of only so much time in the day, and
sure.
And thus far, I have to go with what's important to me.
Definitely. I was just
so there's a little bit of a non-answer to the wonderful question.
Well, I mean, with the work that you do, and the videos, I was just thinking how much, not even your experience with it, but how often does it, come up with clients? Well, I'm sure nobody's going to come up with, their issues in the astral world, but since the issues are more grounded. But so I was just wondering about that. Obviously, these are things I've been fascinated with, and it's just nice to partake in the conversation about it. Now, I told you I grew up most of my life in Colorado. Colorado has now implemented, and Washington, laws to legalize marijuana. Marijuana is another one of those big topics among spiritual people and such, and to a degree, rightly so. So what are your thoughts about marijuana and the laws?
Yeah, good question. I think it should be legalized. And do I support legalization? Like, no, I actually don't have any inspiration to devote my life energy to kind of like lobbying for legalizing marijuana. But I think it's a plant. I think it's certainly been shown to be helpful. And I think also what the supporters don't say is it's also been shown it can be harmful in people's life too. So I think it's got power. Anything with power has a potential to be destructive or constructive. And honestly, I think it's best left up to the individual how they choose to use that power. I personally don't partake in marijuana. I did once in my 20s. Great experience. It was fun. And I know some people see it as a path of opening their consciousness. Mm-hmm. And I would just say, like anything in the spiritual community, what we do to open our consciousness initially can become the very mechanism that closes our consciousness if we keep doing it. So if people use marijuana as a crutch to open their consciousness, well, what happens to a person if they walk around on crutches all day? Their legs actually weaken. You know, we use a crutch to get over a block. So you break your leg, you use a crutch, and it works well for you 6 or 8 weeks. It's necessary. And that really supports you. But if you say, you know what, it's just easier walking on these crutches, then your own two legs will get progressively weaker. Your ability to expand your consciousness outside of your codependent relationship, if not addiction to marijuana, it becomes handicapped. And I like to see the light side, shadow side. And I think a lot of people are not looking at the shadow side of the addiction to marijuana. People say, well, it's not chemically addictive. Well, gambling's not chemically addictive. there's no chemicals in it to get addicted to. What we do get addicted to is the behavior of it, what it means to us, and our own endogenous chemicals that are produced by it.
That's right.
Or produced in response to it. And because I think rightfully so, people become defiant to authorities. Like, oh, you tell me I can't have something, so now I've got to, kind of root myself at the other extreme of it's the Holy Grail, it's the savior of humanity. And I think a lot of that kind of one-dimensional thinking, like it's just pure gold, marijuana, that comes out of us being defiant to the authorities who take it away from us.
Sure.
So I think there is the shadow side of marijuana that needs to be highlighted as much as the benefits.
I agree.
I think addiction to it as a crutch is, and addiction to it as an escapism. It puts you in a powerfully altered state of mind. And I think the primary addiction of humanity is we become addicted to not feeling what we're actually feeling. And in that case, I think if that's why marijuana is used, I think it's the worst thing for us. And I also would challenge everybody, because it's a worthwhile challenge to ask themselves, if I'm using marijuana on any kind of regular basis, why am I using it? And why am I really using it? We all have our convenient rationalizations that come out first blush with the question, oh, here's why I'm using it, because it's helping me grow. Well, okay, you got that. And what are potential other deeper reasons? Why might you be using it for the shadow side? So, similar to vegetarianism, I'm not really dogmatically for it, not really dogmatically against it, but I am really into inviting people to consider their deeper reasons, as well as not become ultra spiritually blinded to their altruistic rationalizations about marijuana.
Right. Excellent answer. This answer is so great that it's going to make a perfect clip out of this video. You'll see. So, that answer, like you brought up vegetarianism right there at the end. That's what it linked to. It was similar, like your answer to vegetarianism, and I totally agree with those answers for that, because that it's so based on the individual, as well as the keyword moderation, even if it is based on a certain individual, how much to use, and and so on. So moderation is another huge part of that. And marijuana is an interesting topic for me, maybe because I've seen both sides of the dilemma, and I've argued against and for both sides of the dilemma. And that's still a thing that's so public now. Is that it's like the savior, like you said. But yeah, there's still a negative to it, just as there is with drinking wine or whatever else, or playing video games for that matter.
Absolutely. Well, shame on you, Arthur, for being so open-minded that you can argue for both for and against it. That's horrible that you would be open-minded.
Yeah, I need to be put away.
I think they make medication to heal your open mind shut.
I think they do. I think they're in the U.S. There's a lot of medications like that. All right, now I wanted to bring this up from before. I noticed your videos have captions, quality captions on them. Do you write all the captions or touch up all the captions to all the videos?
No, in fact, I don't, and I didn't know all the videos have captions on them. News to me.
Yeah, so those are automatic, and I guess the hidden praise there was that your voice is so good and clear that YouTube puts the right words in your captions. I mean, that's what I came out with here.
It's exciting to know.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see any mistakes there, and I was like, I wonder if he practices the... what is the word? I was trying to sound smart here with making your videos more easier to find. But I forgot it. I just ruined that moment. So I thought you were just, doing all the captions because it helps with the keywords when your videos are searched throughout the internet. So Okay, now the last question of these series, before we start the next 1,000 questions, is what is your body fat percent?
That's a good question.
It's a big one.
No idea, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, if I had to guess, maybe 10%, and that's purely a guess, so we'll call that scientific fact.
Well, you seem pretty ripped, lean. So, yeah, what does your, not the whole routine, but how long is your exercise routine usually, on average?
Usually probably about 45 minutes, and I'm working out with weights probably, when I'm in town and actually exercising, usually 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay.
And a lot of the weight training movements I do them at slow speed. You just get more bang for your buck, kind of more time under tension, as they say in strength and conditioning circles. So for every 45 minutes you're working out, you're actually doing more work and therefore getting more of a favorable growth hormone response. That and taking oatmeal and steroids every morning are just vital.
I was gonna say, I agree with the steroids part. I mean, the oatmeal part.
Oatmeal's controversial because sometimes it has gluten in it, but steroids are a given. I don't think there's side effects to steroids, is there?
I don't know. So, I was going to ask, are you also offering services in personal training? At the
I am not.
Okay.
Nope, I'm not. In fact, I don't even go to a gym. I just have some equipment in my garage. I used to do personal training professionally in my 20s. That's what got me started into the emotional healing worlds, where I was working with people to better their lives with exercise, and then quickly learned, stress reduction. That really stress screws people up, and then started working with those personal training clients on what I would call superficial stress reduction techniques, and then from there got progressively more in depth into the heart and soul of them.
Interesting.
So yeah, actually personal training had been a nice doorway for me to walk through into greener pastures for me.
Of the greener pastures of the body. When, I don't know.
Grass-fed bodies, just like grass-fed cows, are better in this analogy.
Yeah. That was an interesting venture into your development. And so for you personally, like you said, mentally and physically, body types are all different. To get that lean, is it more for you, because usually sometimes they say like it's 20% at the gym, it's 80% at the kitchen for like abs or something.
Yeah.
For you, is it much of your diet, what you eat, or do you still say that you do a lot of cardio and such?
When it comes to being lean, I'm gonna go with 80% nutrition, 20% exercise, and that 20% exercise for me is weight training. I don't do cardio. I mean, I'll go out for walks and bike rides just to enjoy the outside, but I don't do cardio training, as they say.
Happy nutrition.
And in my early 20s, I could eat whatever I wanted and still be very lean. And now that I'm older, I'm 75, by the way. It's just all the hormones that make me look like I'm 19. But now, as I'm in,
wish I had red hair.
If I have ice cream, which I like to have ice cream, I like to be playful with nutrition rather than obsessive, compulsive, rigid, having nutrition then work against me. So when I have treats like ice cream, I can see I start to wear that on my body, and I didn't used to. So actually, I think what I'm learning is the older I get, the more nutrition does play a bigger and bigger role in staying fit and healthy.
Absolutely. Well, what is your usual rep amount? Are you doing like the 10 to 12, the 6 to 10 amount, or like you're obviously probably not doing the strength numbers like, you know, 5 reps of heavy.
Yeah.
What are you looking at usually for
usually reps? Around 8 reps. And a lot of times I'm using what would be the heck would it be? A 3-second eccentric phase and a 1-second concentric. So it's essentially 4 or 5 seconds per rep. So multiply that by 8 reps, it's about 40 seconds of time under tension per set, which does pretty well for me. So, and that's just sort of a normal rep scheme, and I certainly will vary that. I think our bodies need change. They crave it. So I'll do higher reps and quicker reps. But that's the usual that I'm doing.
Okay. All right. I'm very glad I asked these questions because, you know, elsewhere on the internet, there's topics coming up about JP and shirtless pictures. I don't know what all this hoopla is about. I've never used the word hoopla in my life, so this is a first for that. I don't even know what that means, but yeah. So I think that'll be interesting for people to see that side of JP as well. Okay, and now the part of the interview that repeats. It's actually not 1,000 questions. It's just about over 700. Okay, so tell me, what's next for you and your channel?
It was a good question. I think being consistent with what I'm doing is really what's next for me. I don't see any kind of drastic changes coming, though I'll welcome them if and when the legitimate inspiration comes. So I think consistency with what I'm doing, which typically has it 1 or 2. I like to do 2 serious videos to every 1 ultra spiritual video. So, and I'm excited about some of the upcoming ultra spiritual topics that I've got outlined. I've got, you know, sometimes I wish I could just make videos all day, and that's like what I did just 24/7 because I can come up with ideas faster than I can put them into action. But I know as the tortoises teach us, I see one just here on your floor, Arthur. Tortoises like this tell us that slow and steady wins the race. I don't even know what the heck we're racing for, what the race is, why we want to win it. But anyway, slow and steady with what I'm doing, I think, is what's next for me.
A totem animal there? So...
He's my pet turtle. I haven't fed him for a couple years.
He looks healthy.
Yeah, he is healthy. I mean, for not feeding him or giving him water, he's solid.
Let me have a closer look here at him. All right. I was just thinking after I said we just have 700 more questions to go, I was looking at your reaction, and no, there's not 700 more questions. All right, here's our 10 speed questions. Are you ready?
Well, me and my turtle are ready for speed.
Excellent. I wonder who's going to win this race. All right, number 1. What inspires you?
Dave Matthews.
Nice, okay. What is your favorite word?
Spontaneity is one of them. There has to be a more favoriter word than spontaneity. Connection.
Okay. All right, cool. What would you love to be? We're talking about profession-wise. This means you already have the education all in your head. You're full-blown. Whatever this is, what do you want it to be?
Well, am I allowed to say what I'm doing now?
It can't include, I don't want it to, it can't. It's my show. No, I don't want it to include what you're doing now or YouTube. If you could experience something else, what interests you enough that you would kind of want to check it out?
I think being a musician particularly vocals and guitar. I have zero of that now, but I think the development, education, and let the gifts blossom through those outlets. My inspiration comes from Dave Matthews, so maybe that's a predictable answer.
Okay, cool. See, that's what we were looking for. Excellent. Excellent. What grosses you out or disgusts you?
When people bite ice cream with their teeth, I think it's the worst thing in the world. I think it should be outlawed. And I have sensitive teeth. If I bite into ice cream, I mean, worst pain that I can imagine. I mean, I've had my shoulder dislocated, mangled, hanging in front of me. Biting into ice cream is more painful to me. So even when people do it, when I see people do it, it cringes.
Sure.
No good.
That sparked another thought in my head. And, well, you know, all these sparks sparked this whole idea, this whole show. So I have to ask, because you said the word mangled. See, you shouldn't have said that. If you would have said your shoulder dislocated, you've seen that, okay. But you said mangled, so now I have to know what happened.
Wakeboarding. I've dislocated my shoulder, I think, 3 times wakeboarding, and coming down wrong in the water. 2 of the times they were flips that I landed, but stuck my arm down, and I was just, shoulder comes out. Jeez. Once you do it, it's easy to do it again, unfortunately.
I see. Right, it gets flexible there, huh?
Yeah.
Ooh. That hasn't happened to me yet, luckily. I've seen it while I was doing jiu-jitsu and stuff, and I've seen people, you know, kick it back in, but, yeah. All right. What do you love to hear in the morning after you wake up, and what do you love to hear before you go to sleep at night?
In the morning, I love to hear my dog kind of put his little paws on the bed. He kind of asks if he can come up, and I think it's like just a very sweet, loving way to start the day. Last thing at night that I love to hear is probably my girlfriend making affectionate noises towards me, kind of the kind of noises. To me, that's a beautiful lullaby.
Most definitely. All right, I thought you would want to hear that in the morning as well, but I guess that'd be just too much. Like we said, moderation.
Absolutely.
What scares you?
What scares me is becoming power hungry. I personally, I'm glad that I'm afraid of becoming power hungry, control hungry. I think it's kind of like if you're walking to the edge of a cliff. It's very natural and desirable to get scared. Our fear prevents us from falling off the edge of the cliff, and so that's my reason why being scared of becoming power and control hungry and motivated, that scares me, and I'm glad it scares me.
Sure. That's a good answer, and that means, well, because I can relate to it, so I don't know if it's exactly the same for you, but that means you probably thought of, you know, your goals and where you want to be and such. I know I have, and I've felt the rush, you know, but then I also think, you know, how am I going to change? And I look at other people in different positions and how it changes that, and that's a really nice answer. I was going to say deep, but enough deep here. Let's keep it simple. What animal would you love to be if you had to choose to be an animal?
A dolphin, for sure. They're playful. They're graceful, they seem loving, they like to eat fish, hang out in the ocean most of the day, probably all the day actually. Dolphin.
What an excellent topic for one of your videos. All right. Yeah, dolphins. It's a big topic, and that's a cool answer. Yeah. Huh. Okay. Where would you love to live if you could live anywhere?
You know, a cabin in the woods, I think, would be cool. I think living there as a kind of temporary, once-in-a-while retreat would be wonderful. I don't think I'd want to be there, 365 days a year. But a cabin in the woods right now.
But even if you had Wi-Fi, still wouldn't want to be there 100%?
That's a good question. No, yeah, not even if I had Wi-Fi. I'm needy enough. I've got some extroverted blood in me, and I need to interact with people. So going to a coffee shop even once in a while to get my highly social. I go to a coffee shop for a social event. God help me.
Yeah, I think my consciously I would say something like, like a nice little cottage or a hobbit hole out in the woods. But unconsciously, I think, like you said, temporarily, I think there's other things that we've become attuned to and used to that you kind of need more variety, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Wi-Fi is, that's a big one here. What are you drinking? That looks like a shampoo bottle.
It's actually conditioner. I don't drink shampoo anymore.
That's the power of the red hair, damn it. We got it.
Conditioner thins the blood. Shampoo actually strips your minerals out of the blood, so conditioner. Or
who would have
actually,
known?
this might just be water.
Okay. What excites you the most?
New things, new ideas, creativity, new experiences, like, going out and doing new things. So new things for sure.
Excellent. All right. And this one's a new one I added. I changed the last question, and it is, what superhuman ability would you choose if you had to choose one? If you could choose one.
Part of me wants to say flying, but another part of me thinks I shouldn't say flying because everybody would say flying. Flying. I hate myself. Why did I say flying? Maybe the superhuman ability to give amazing answers to questions like, what superhuman ability would you want? That'd be an interesting superhuman ability.
There you go. And every time you get that opportunity, you can shine.
Once every few years, I get to play that card for sure. In the meantime,
all right. What is your fan most asked question? Fan and your followers and people that watch you. What's the most common question you get? There's a lot of thought on this show today. A lot.
I think relationship questions are probably the most commonly asked question I get for the, questions around, kind of help me. The most asked question about myself is probably, how'd you get started?
All right, how'd you get started? Is there any advice that you would like to share about that?
Absolutely. I think getting started on anything, maybe I'll just answer it from a YouTube angle just to be a little bit more specific. I think in this day and age where anybody has the potential to, live their dreams. I mean, with the internet, the way we can connect with the world, anybody can live their dreams and earn a living at it at that. So what I think is actually not talked about enough present day is mastering a skill. And finding your talents, leveraging your talents, and sharpening the samurai sword of your talents with lots of raw hours of application towards your talent.
Yes.
I think a lot of times we get into the 4-hour work week mentality. I want to have it all and I want to have it now. I think life is more meaningful than that. So what I would say is, for getting started, whatever it is you think you want to do it. And do a lot of it. And be willing to do it. If you never make it big, would you be willing to express your talent, your art, your craft, even if nobody else saw it? Personally, yes, I would. And I think that's a question we have to ask ourselves. Otherwise, the amount of raw hours it takes to kind of become the master of what we're doing, we will abandon that ship. If we're out for gratification, we will abandon the ship before we reach mastery, because typically we get the recognition once we've reached mastery. So do it, raw hours. Would you do it if nobody ever saw you? I'd consider those questions.
Beautiful. Definitely. I always keep that in mind. I think we're similar like that as far as staying busy and developing. Like you said, there's not enough hours in a day. That means you're using up your time wisely. There's a saying when you go to the university that it takes this many hours to become a professional in something, like 500 hours or something it is, right? So I always think, like, whenever I do a new skill, I like to count up those hours just because I like measuring things and sort of categorizing, you know, what I do to kind of, you know, see the growth, right?
Absolutely. And if you want to up the ante, in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, you know, outliers, those who are like amazing at what they do, he talks about 10,000 hours. And at 500, that makes sense to become a professional, but Malcolm Gladwell kind of proposes to become a master, like a samurai warrior.
I see.
That's 10,000 raw hours. If you look at the beautiful things in nature, a lot of like the rock formations, we think that's pretty amazing. Well, you didn't see how many raw hours of erosion that nature put into that. I mean, it's thousands and thousands and thousands or millions of years of raw hours to create that beautiful masterpiece. Right. So, awesome. The tortoise once told me, slow and steady wins the race.
Yes, it does talk too. It does talk too. It's a special one. I like what you said there. The success of life. I like to say that life is a test. And for me, I say don't just pass it, but pass it with the highest of honors. So it's like if you're passing high school, don't pass with an A, pass it with the A+, pass it with that 4.0 above, because that means you've taken the full advantage of it. What other channels do you have?
No other YouTube channels.
Okay. And what final message would you like to leave your followers, fans, and friends with?
Seek connection. Within yourself and outside of yourself, connecting to others and experiences outside of yourself, I think is actually a powerful and necessary way to connect deeper with oneself. Everybody's our mirror. So connect with others and connect with yourself. I think both those routes bring the circle of our life into a more complete whole, and I think that's where our deep inherent satisfaction that we all crave comes from.
Excellent. All right. Okay, well, I'm subscribed to JP. I will always be subscribed to JP. I enjoy all of the videos, the helpful, the funny. I find them all helpful and useful, and I hope you do too. So go check out JP Sears. JP Sears. Let it go.
So I don't even know how to say that.
Funguses. I don't know why I compared you to him. He is a fun guy. And JP Sears' channel, do check it out. Leave him a comment. Ask him some questions. I'm sure he'd be interested in some comments. We're all open to feedback. And if you'd like to see him, I'd love to see you back on the show. Maybe a different style show. Maybe more of a free chat sometime if you're available in the future, JP.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
So, yeah, leave us a like if you like seeing JP here. And let us know. So, JP, I'd like to give you my digital handshake.
Thank you, my brother. I really appreciate you having me on, and thank you to all you lovely viewers of Arthur's for being a part of the conversation.
All right. Until next time, have a great day or night, wherever you are.
Bye, guys. Talk to you soon.
Subscribe and comment down below, and maybe you can be on our next show. Be sure to check out Arthur Kidawa's gameplays, monsters, and other work.
For this program as well, so anytime you want to be featured, just let me know. So if there's a great YouTuber that you want to see interviewed, and if you know some questions you want to ask them, let us know who it is and what questions you have. And again, if you're a YouTuber and you want some more viewers and more subscribers and more fans to meet you and find out about you, this is a great chance for you. It's a great opportunity. You know what? How did I not know? How did I not know?